the kids in Bitcoin Ekasi and the 50-year-old Bitcoin educator, we don't even know what they end up believing that they'll be able to do. And for me, that is get Powerpuff Girls, sugar, spice, and everything nice, and then Chemical X, and then Chemical X created the Powerpuff Girls, right?
What?
You didn't watch Powerpuff Girls, like
No, I didn't watch Powerpuff Girls.
I'm sorry. Yeah, those are the ingredients of the Powerpuff Girls, sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Was everything nice?
Everything nice. So the animation was just him pouring a packet full of everything nice.
Wow.
And then while stirring it up.
I'm going to have to go look this up on the Wayback Machine.
Yeah. Well, not even the Wayback Machine, YouTube.
This is YouTube.
Yeah, the opening animation.
Okay.
Yeah, opening Powerpuff Girls animation. And while he was stirring, he mistakenly broke the bottle for Chemical X.
And Chemical X made the Powerpuff Girls.
Bitcoin is Chemical X. I don't know what the Powerpuff Girls are going to look like. Right?
Okay.
So, we'll just have to see.
So what an analogy.
The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness, 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 happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure.
Welcome to One Love Bitcoin. I'm Dred, your host. My goal is to go around the world and talk to one Bitcoiner from every country and learn a thing or two along the way. In keeping with our Africa theme this season, we're headed this week to South Africa, to the city of Pretoria, a beautiful city in the center of South Africa. And we're going to be speaking to Kgothatso Ngako. You also know him as Machankura, or as KG, some people call him. I had a pleasure of speaking with him at the Africa Bitcoin Conference, and we spoke about everything from South Africa to the communities that are being built up there, Bitcoin Ekasi and Bitcoin with Sand. We also spoke about his company, Machankura, which is a company that is doing amazing things in South Africa for people that don't have internet access and just use a cell phone for daily business. You're able to send Bitcoin over what they call USSD, which is kind of like text messaging and phone calls only. And it's really cool the way he's able to piggyback off of that system and give people access to Bitcoin in rural areas where there's no internet at all. I found out that there's only 30% of people in Africa that even have internet access. So this is huge and can be used in other places as well around the world. We also got to talk about a lot of other things. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation with him. He's a brilliant guy. I'm glad I got to meet him. Shout out to Herman and the team that's helping to build Bitcoin Ekasi. They're doing an amazing job building the community, continuing to build the community since they've been around for over a decade before they even started using Bitcoin. And now they're even painting a lot of other Bitcoin communities on the side of buildings. So that's really cool to see. This week, we're going to be doing a faucet for South Africa. So if you are in South Africa or you're just happening to watch the podcast, you can go to southafrica.onelovebitcoin.com and you can get a faucet. What is a standpipe? Standpipe is somewhere where you can get free Bitcoin. Just get a Lightning wallet, scan the QR code at southafrica.onelovebitcoin.com, and you have free Bitcoin. You can experience how easy it is to get Bitcoin from across the world just by watching this podcast. Also, if you're in the US, feel free to buy Bitcoin from Swan Bitcoin. Really cheap place to buy Bitcoin, really cool. If you're not in the US, then I would say peer-to-peer is probably the best way for you to buy Bitcoin and sell Bitcoin. And honestly, we should be normalizing peer-to-peer exchange of Bitcoin, just like we normalize every other exchange around the world. There's no reason to have regulated third parties in between you and your goods. If you're looking for different KYC free ways to buy Bitcoin, I love RoboSats. That's one of the easiest ways to do it right now, and one of the most private ways. There are also many other companies like Hodl Hodl. Peach Bitcoin just came out, which seems really cool. I haven't used it yet since it's in Europe. But if you're in Europe, you should try it out and let me know how it is. And also, if you're in Jamaica, hit me up. I have a Telegram group that I do a lot of buying and selling of Bitcoin on right now, and it is growing. So if you're interested, hit me up and we can do some exchanges there as well. All right, people. Fulljoy this one, and one love.
And to those who have given their lives, praises to thee, husbands and wives, all thy children shall reap what you've sown. This continent is a home. My brothers and sisters, stand up and sing. Eduardo Montani is not gone. Frelimo, Frelimo, your eternal flame has shown us the light of dawn. Mozambique, a luta continua, continua. In Zimbabwe, mama, a luta continua, continua. In Botswana, a luta continua, continua. In Zambia, a luta continua, continua. In Angola, a luta continua, continua. In Namibia, a luta continua, continua. In South Africa, a luta continua, continua.
You know, let me just cover this up.
About the water.
Well,
Probably
put up a very important message as well.
you owe your dreams your courage. Koleka Putuma.
Yeah, that's the code. The code the message. Make the back.
Who is Koleka Putuma? Who is that?
South African poet. Probably
Poet.
one of the greatest poets we have. Yeah. So,
Well, welcome to One Love Bitcoin.
one love Bitcoin.
Kgothatso.
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 Yes. And
I see people call you KG, but
yeah,
Kgothatso.
KG is much simpler, much easier to remember. No pronunciation difficulties.
True.
So yeah, and other people just call me Machankura. So
Because that's the name of the company.
yeah, it works. I will respond
What? Why would people call you by the name of your company? As
because
opposed to-
that is the association that they have. Yeah.
It's so, but they know. Does the name Machankura mean something specific that it would make sense to call you that name?
Well, to them, no, it means nothing. So it's just the word that they heard for the first time, similar to Kgothatso, and I think it's also much easier to pronounce
Okay.
than Kgothatso.
Okay.
No special characters like ho and so.
Right.
So Machankura, many languages seem to be having an easier time pronouncing that.
Easier
But
pronunciation.
yeah, and it does have a meaning. It's a slang term for money in South Africa. Right? No languages in South Africa actually have the word Machankura, but yeah.
It's a made up slang. that doesn't have an official definition.
Yes, or official origin.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have mines in South Africa and many different cultures. So what happens is everyone in these mines kind of creates a new language called Svanagalo.
Spanagalo.
Yeah, and it effectively means with this we are the same.
Okay.
Right. And so you come with whatever language you speak, I come with whatever language I speak, and we talk, and it's one of the coolest things because in the townships, then there's another variant of it. Every township also has a similar,
Spanagano.
no, a similar mixture of cultures.
Okay.
Right. So then every township kind of has its own language depending on where you are.
It'll be a different name in that township,
Yeah.
but it'll be a mix of multiple. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And sadly, well, due to how our birthday was set up, regions have similar ethnicities, but as a people, as Africans, we always mix and match, and so we always create a new one. And my philosophy on Africa is that we are creators. The reason why we have multiple languages in each and every country you go to in Africa, there's minimum 10 languages spoken in that country.
Yeah, I heard it's 24 here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And for me, I'm like, how many more would there be if colonization didn't happen?
Right.
Yeah, because we're always moving. We're always like, oh, what's the next thing? How do we talk as this tribe? And also tribes. You form newer and newer tribes all the time. And what I think colonization did, it created a snapshot and said, you are Zulu, you are Xhosa, you are Bedi, and then stop
changing.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's in our cultural DNA to create and change, and language for me highlights that as Africans we always want to move on to the next thing, and the coolest thing always wins, and the coolest sound and language always wins, and we create newer tribes all the time.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm gonna go back to the whole intro rabbit hole stuff, but this is interesting because if we think about money, it's a language too.
Yeah.
And it's this new language that we found, which is sound money. So how is it affecting tribal languages and thinking about, and this might be very cosmic talking, right? But how do you think that language being brought to townships might change the way we interact with each other, or might change the way that they speak to each other?
Yeah. How does what?
Will Bitcoin as a language start becoming infused in each township? Is similar to how other languages come, and you're like, oh yeah, we talk the same language, so let's figure out how to talk this language too.
Yeah, I have a short answer and a long answer. Which one?
Both. Okay. Give me the short one and then the long one.
Okay, the short one is it will have us all talking together, right? The longer one is in historical context. When was the last time Africans got to choose their own money? Right.
Since before colonization.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How many years do you have to go back before that? So I loved seeing some of the guys here in Ghana having the cowrie thing beat. Right.
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, the one of them I met. They at that meetup, Bitcoin meetup.
Oh yeah.
Bitcoin cowries, right? That was one of the things that we used as money, right? And even in the wording, because there's what dowry. When
you have the marriage,
right, dowry, cowrie. I'm like, these things sound the same.
Yeah.
And technically, back in the day, money was also one of those things you would, exchange between families, blah, 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 because the wealth was the human capital and the human capital was the woman. Sorry to say this, but
historically accurate, but sad.
Yeah. And it's part of the reason why women couldn't have bank accounts like 40, 50 years ago.
Because they were property.
Exactly. Right. And Yeah, so for me now, with the introduction of Bitcoin or the existence of Bitcoin, I'm like, maybe as Africans we can finally get to a point where we choose our own money, right? And would we, what are the, things that we will, practices that we will develop around this money? The cowries, we have the dowry. So with Bitcoin, what will a Bitcoin marriage look like?
Right.
What will a Bitcoin family look like? Africans being extra, being performative, being ritualistic people. I can't wait. Oh, so
The creativity is gonna shine one way or another.
yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely.
Yeah.
I read this other article about the importance of a ritual, where a ritual creates significance of a thing. So I tried it out. Once upon a time, I had a friend visit me in Cape Town, and that week I made a ritual out of every meal. And then, yeah, it was a memory. Every meal was a memory because every meal had a ritual.
You remembered the ritual part,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah, you can forget what you ate last night, but you can't forget the ritual. And even in African culture, when the village comes together and slaughters a cow, the cows getting slaughtered is a ritual, maybe to the ancestors, whatever. Whatever it is you believe in, there's a ritual, and then the community, the families come together and eat, and makes that meal a lot more significant. So we will probably create rituals around Bitcoin as well. So
I agree. I mean, the Western world has the Thanksgivings and the Christmases and these are all rituals. Yeah, I agree completely. All right, so let's start with your rabbit hole. How did you get into Bitcoin? Was it in South Africa? Was it during travels?
Oh no, it was in South Africa.
Okay.
University, studying computer science at the University of Pretoria, 2017. Well, actually much earlier than that. 2015, the lecture, and then 2017 bull market at work. I'm like, what is this Bitcoin thing? And then I went down the rabbit hole a little more.
Did you get in it for the gains first, like for the number go up,
and to plan the next Bitcoin?
Yeah.
2018 bear market, and yeah, then I took a dive even further than that, and I was like, okay, if this Bitcoin thing works, let me DCA. And then I started dollar cost averaging, and yeah, it's been a very positive result. Not just from a number go up perspective, but from a mentality perspective. And yeah, using Bitcoin is also a ritual. So self-custody, sovereignty, all these different things that you discover.
Yeah.
All these things I mentioned about when last week did we pick a money as Africans, questions I learned or I had after reading the Bitcoin Standard.
Okay.
And
you went back and learned all that stuff in your history.
Yeah, right. And then I'm asking myself like, what is this? And that's basically how I got into Bitcoin.
Okay. And from that point forward, how did you get involved with Bitcoin and Kasi and tell me about Machankura? How did all of that come about?
Oh yeah, so
it's one thing to be orange pilled and be all the way down the rabbit hole. It's another thing to like start taking action.
Yeah. So with the reading, I'm like, there has to be a way for me to get this back into the hands of my people, right? How does a person in the community then learn about Bitcoin, right? As I said, we have all these different languages. So English isn't usually the first, second, third, or fourth language that a person speaks. And so we would need to find a way to actually translate Bitcoin literature into African languages.
Okay.
And then I started the Exonumia project. Right? And then I met all these different people.
Once you started it, just the people came, basically.
Yeah, Bitcoin is working separately together, right? And Bitcoin Legacy, they're in a Xhosa speaking community. So I was like, if you ever need to content translated, let me know. I'll put you in touch with my translators. We did quite a lot of content. So far, I visited them once every 3 months ever since.
Nice.
I think 6 months or 7 months ago. So I might also be, or 9 months ago, and I might also be visiting them again soon.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, I love them. They have a very interesting project. What people need to understand as a community project, right? That Bitcoin has electrified.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're already existing community project, and Bitcoin has made it.
They have 10 years under their wings.
Right.
Or they had 10 years under their wings before they started using Bitcoin.
Okay.
Right.
That seems to be the theme, because El Salvador also had multiple years on, like, as a community project before Bitcoin became Bitcoin Beach, right?
Exactly. And for me, that's the value of Bitcoin. So what are you doing as a person in your life before you actually discover Bitcoin?
Yeah.
What is important to you as a person in your life before you decide to use Bitcoin, right? So it's all great. We can all do all these different things with Bitcoin, but how, can you as an individual use it as a tool to bring more to what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it from the individual level, but then at the same time, the communities are trying to build at a city level almost, or at a township level in your case. How do you see the future looking for Bitcoin Cast is a good example, but how do you see that growing in South Africa?
Yeah, so multiple things, right? I don't know if Feldman has said this, but they have an educator for the kids, right? And so the educator was already a school teacher, and now she's a Bitcoin educator for the kids.
Full time.
Full time. You wanna guess how old she is?
Educator, maybe late 20s, early 30s.
50.
15.
50. 50.
Oh, 50. Okay. And she got Bitcoin.
This lady, I'm shocked. Well, first and foremost, she looks very young for a 50-year-old.
And as they say in America, black don't crack, right?
Yeah, you exactly. Black don't crack. And secondly, she gets Bitcoin. Like, I had a few conversations with her, and I'm like, wait, how is a 50-year-old still processing all of this? And Bitcoin Legacy highlights that technically Bitcoin is something so simple. Both the kids and the grown-ups can, access and learn about it. Right? And that is the beauty of simplicity, right? So now the question is, what do these people do now that they understand Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Right? And the missing piece is, do they believe that whatever it is they want to do, Bitcoin makes it possible for them to do it? Right? I think a project like El Salvador is interesting. Right? The president was a Bitcoiner before becoming president. And there's a tweet where he says, we're going to use Bitcoin. Right? So him understanding Bitcoin and, Bitcoin existing, and him believing that, whatever it is I want to do, I can do it with Bitcoin. No other president has successfully, transitioned or introduced a new currency, especially when the USD was a currency they were using. We all know what happened to Gaddafi.
Yeah, right? Everyone that's tried has died.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And Gaddafi didn't even use the USD. They had their own currency, right? So, that is one of the best examples of having a tool. And there's probably going to be an example, because I'm bad at history, of a president that succeeded. But
the ones that succeeded.
Yeah. So Bitcoin is that crazy of a tool where people can use it and just have the most amazing success using it. And so then back to the kids in Bitcoin Ekasi and the 50-year-old Bitcoin educator, we don't even know what they end up believing that they'll be able to do. Right? And for me, that is Powerpuff Girls, sugar, spice, and everything nice, and then Chemical X, and then Chemical X created the Powerpuff Girls, right?
What?
You didn't watch Powerpuff Girls, like
No, I didn't watch Powerpuff Girls.
I'm so yeah. Those are the ingredients of the Powerpuff Girls:
Okay.
sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Was everything nice?
Everything nice. So the animation was just him pouring a packet full of everything nice.
Wow.
And then while stirring it up.
I'm gonna have to go look this up on the Wayback Machine.
Yeah. Well, not even the Wayback Machine, YouTube.
This is YouTube.
Yeah, the opening animation.
Okay.
Opening
Powerpuff
Powerpuff Girls animation. And while he was stirring, he mistakenly broke the bottle for Chemical X.
And Chemical X made the Powerpuff Girls.
Bitcoin is Chemical X. I don't know what the Powerpuff Girls are going to look like. Right?
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll just have to see.
So what an analogy. Okay. Well, so tell me about Machankura now.
Machankura.
Machankura.
Oh yeah, so it's a USSD service that people can use to send and receive Bitcoin.
And for people in the West that don't know what USSD is, that's like an SMS service that doesn't need internet.
Yeah.
And it works across all cell phone telcos here.
Yep. It's text-based prompt and response interface. So all a person has to do is dial the number. All I have to do is secure the number with a telephone. Right? So it's almost like DNS. The number is almost like DNS, and then everything works. Right? And that's basically it. And then
once everything works, what can they do exactly with it? They can just dial a number and send Bitcoin, dial a number and receive Bitcoin.
Yeah, it works exactly like Wallet of Satoshi.
Okay.
Custodial Lightning Wallet. Users get a Lightning address, which is their phone number at 833.mobi. Or they set a username in case you don't want to share their phone number to receive a payment. And at 833.mobi, username at
That's great privacy then. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the time to implement it over the past few months, so I had to. And but basically anyone with a phone that has a mobile cellular connection can use it.
And how many countries is this in?
Currently in 8 countries. Right, I'm trying to get back in Tanzania. Used to be there, went viral, and had some drama. People started saying Vodacom was integrating Bitcoin, and Vodacom was like, "We're not integrating Bitcoin. This is a scam." Shut down. And I need to do some work there.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna get back in Tanzania hopefully soon. And what else? Yeah, so 8 countries: Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, Malawi, Zambia, South Africa. And let me just add Tanzania for the fun of it. But
And you're planning on, I'm guessing, continuing just finding one country at a time.
Yeah. Primary focus, user growth.
Okay.
Right. So I'm trying to get to 1 million users by June.
Okay.
So even if I don't add any other country, the main focus is am I getting to that 1,000 users by June? And that's
and the main use case for this, because USSD is used a lot, but if you have a Wi-Fi connection or internet access or data on your phone, then usually you can access a UI wallet that probably would be easier to use than an SMS wallet or USSD wallet. But what is the percentage of people that on a regular basis would use USSD more than use Wi-Fi or data?
Okay, cool. Let me start off by saying that the internet penetration levels in Africa at 80%.
80.
30%. Right?
Oh, 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And well, it's over-clustered in the city. So if you're in the city, high internet penetration. Move a little outside the city, maybe 1 or 2 blocks outside the city, then it starts getting lower and lower and lower. Right?
Wow.
And so then the nature of payments is that where when the person sending the payment and the person receiving the payment need the similar capabilities, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so you can't send me a payment if I cannot receive it.
Yeah, and vice
So-
versa.
Yeah, right. So then what ends up happening is that whichever platform has the best network effect wins, right? So you can have a smartphone with internet paid and everything, but where you are spending money will determine, if
Yeah.
you will use your internet or your smartphone.
Okay. Okay, so then there's a lot of room for growth then, if it's 20-30%
Mhm.
that actually can even reach the internet, much less use it. And that's not even considering, the data costs for
Mhm.
having a data plan and using it. What do you see happening in terms of, and this is just me pontificating, right? But the combination of community being grown right now,
Mhm.
and it's Ikasi,
Yeah.
and the circular economy they're trying to build,
Mhm.
and something like this that can provide lightning addresses for everybody using that community. Are these two? Is there any symbiosis going on, or any syncing going on between the two right now, or just still kind of in development? So it's not really prime time yet.
Of the development of the internet or
Of the Machankura, and if it's being able to benefit
Mhm.
Bitcoin Ikasi yet.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's also like an development thing. So talk from a growth perspective. Obviously, a project like Bitcoin Legacy is important because that is where we'll be spending most of our time, right? And that is the ideal community for us,
Yeah.
people that are already trying to make a Bitcoin circular economy. Right? So how can we make Bitcoin more available to them, and how would they use it?
Okay, I hope that really happens because
Yeah.
just like the Bitcoin Beach wallet was built in El Salvador
Mhm.
for their specific needs, built around
Mhm.
what they figured. This seems like it's being built around what people need as well.
Yeah.
In not just South Africa, but all the countries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Next question I have, which is usually more around the country itself. Tell me about South Africa. Tell me, what was it like growing up there? With your travels, how is it compared to other countries? And if people wanted to come and visit, where would you recommend that they go and see?
well, it depends what they want to see. Right?
The average tourist, they don't know what to look for. They don't know what they don't know, right?
Yeah.
So usually it's something historical first. I usually say like what's important to know about the country.
Cool. So I grew up in Pretoria, which is my Mamelodi specific
Is
perspective.
it Pretoria or Victoria?
Pretoria.
Pretoria.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Mamelodi is a township in Pretoria, and yeah, it's a fun place. If you're a local, you can always fit in. Well, if you're a tourist, usually people just go there to have a good time. In Mamelodi, we are very accommodating people, but also, it could be a little intimidating if you are not from there because you might feel like, it's a little unsafe depending on what you hear. Right? But yeah, if you know someone to show you around, give you a tour, introduce you to people, it will probably be one of the places you walk away with like, I really love it there,
Good vibes.
Good vibes,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, and well, there's a lot of historic places. Sadly, our government sucks.
Yeah.
So they are very bad at maintaining all these places, all these museums, all these galleries. We have rich history because technically you can even see how the geospatial planning came about.
Okay.
Like how this community was supposed to be a certain culture, this community was supposed to be so on and so forth, right? I think one of the first train stations is also in Pretoria.
Okay.
It's called Este Fabriek or something like that, but that is not how it's presented, right? So yeah, all these facts are great, but not, there's no narrative about them. So it's one of those things, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you do not know and want to know, it doesn't give you that. And to your left, we will see blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Blah,
It's
blah,
none of
blah.
that.
Yeah. So, yeah, we I blame us as Mamelodians, as Pretorians, because in Soweto, there's a street called Vilagazi Street.
Vilagazi Street.
Yeah, where Mandela lived, I believe. And yeah, so it's a whole tourist location. All these people go to that street and spend time at the house Mandela lived in.
They have tour guides telling them about the house.
Yeah, going to the restaurants. And obviously, you can say Mandela ate at this restaurant and stuff like this. You can make up almost everything to a tourist, right? And yeah, we are really letting easy money pass us. We can pay almost anything, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Quick question for you on South Africa again, which is the music, because I talk about music from everywhere. I visit or I speak to people.
Yeah.
What is your favorite song or music in not necessarily in South Africa? It could be whatever your favorite is, but maybe something that I might play at the beginning of the episode. So it could also be something that people in South Africa like too.
Okay, well, I like leaving a message songs. Right? So this may not be my favorite, but there's an artist called Nick Hakim.
Okay.
And yeah, no. That one is my personal song. It's called Lift Me Up. Play it and we'll hear it. But the one with the message that I like to share with people is by Miriam Makeba.
Miriam Makeba. Yeah.
Aluta Continua.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's one of her bangers.
You said it's Alita Continua? Aluta Continua.
Yeah,
okay.
It's written in celebration of the independence of Mozambique.
Okay.
Yeah, a very upbeat, happy, dancing, celebratory song. And the chorus, or the word "Aluta Continua" basically means the struggle continues.
A star continues?
The struggle.
Or the struggle continues, just like the Marley song.
Yeah.
Damien Jr. and Marley have a song called The Struggle Continues.
Yeah, so
Aluta Continua.
Yeah, it's based on a speech by, who's this guy? The president of Mozambique, the first president, independent president of Mozambique. He gave us Aluta Continua speech. And so Marva Machel, I think. And yeah, for me, I'm like, this lady was all the way in exile. She'd been there almost the majority of her life, freedom fighting. Right? And when one of the countries in the region that she grew up in, Southern Africa, finally got independence, the words that she wanted to say as a way to celebrate the independence is that the struggle continues.
Yeah.
That's some twisted stuff right there, like you can't even sit down and say, we've done it, comrades, right? Because technically there's still so much work ahead, right? Because of all the stuff that has happened behind us. And yeah, I think that's a mentality that Bitcoiners need to adopt.
Yeah.
Right? Bitcoin has had quite a lot of great milestones, right? Even over the past 10 years. But the struggle continues. Right? Yeah, there's a lot we can do to celebrate. There's a lot we should celebrate. Bitcoin legal tender law in El Salvador, Bitcoin legal tender law in the Central African Republic, all these different things. But basically, the struggle continues. Right? In an earlier interview, I'm like, mobile money, Pesa in Kenya, and Bitcoin were launched at a similar time, 2009, 2008, right? Mobile money has had better adoption than Bitcoin.
By far.
Over the past 12 years.
Yeah.
For me, we should see that as a failure for Bitcoin.
In terms of adoption.
Yeah, in terms of adoption. Like, with all the talent we have in the world, with all the Bitcoiners we have in the world.
But do you think that's a fair statement, considering mobile money is still something that is built upon the fiat rails that already has that platform,
Yes.
where Bitcoin needed to evolve to where it is?
Yes, for me, it's a very fair comparison
Mhm.
because mobile money didn't exist before 2008. And technically, mobile money isn't even on the fiat rails because it's its own system. It's outside the banking system.
But it still uses the unit of account of the banking system, right? So if your money gets devalued on mobile money, it still gets devalued.
Even, with Bitcoin, there's some Bitcoin companies that use the national unit of account, but they use Bitcoin as their backend.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Right?
Like Strike, for example, they would use the US dollar as their,
Exactly.
and then they would still be, and you're saying companies like Strike and BitNob and all of these that use that unit of account haven't adopted as fast as mobile money has.
Yeah, even regardless of them, because technically you have to be any company, right? Even if, let's say, we took all their user numbers and combined them, how do they compete against mobile money?
Right, and mobile money is still far outpacing now. So what do you think we can do to catch up?
Man, we need to do drugs, man. Like, for real. Like, find whatever drug, make steroids. If they make you more productive, we need to be juiced up 9 days in a week. And do all this work.
That's why the struggle continues.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and I think we need to also be very blunt with ourselves and say, Zoom wasn't this big 2 years ago. Zoom's adoption outpaced Bitcoin's adoption.
Yeah.
What are you telling me? Bitcoin had a head start. Right? Well, technically apples and oranges, but still.
I get it though. Like there's a way to accelerate that we should be focused on.
Yeah, right. And we shouldn't say it's still early days. Yeah. Because gold struggled for 1,000 years and never got to even be a gold standard, right?
Not before fiat came.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And if we, do this and be like, no, with time it will happen. No, we need to be evangelists. We need Satoshi's witness handbooks, like handing them out to people and
having our rituals.
And having the rituals. Everyone who steps in your house as a Bitcoiner needs to do something at
tea ceremony time. Come on, let's do it.
Exactly. Right. So
I agree.
Yeah, it might be bad OPSEC, but hey, wear it on your chest.
Well, there's gonna be. I mean, just like any great war, any great change, there's gonna be the soldiers in the front, the soldiers in the back. There's gonna be the ones that are going through the door first. They say the ones who go through the door first take the arrows, but they also pave the way. So you look at it that way, and this is the way it has to be. We have to wear it on our chest.
Yeah.
And the people that need the OPSEC, they will take the OPSEC. They will do their job.
Yeah.
And vice versa. It's been a great conversation. KG, Kgothatso, thank you for talking to me. If you want to tell anybody else, where to reach you, your Twitter, your Instagram, your YouTube, I don't know what else.
Oh, yeah. So the website is 833.movie and the Twitter is Machankura admin. Yeah, Machankura 8333. So
Machankura 8333 is Twitter.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Right. So from the website, you should be able to find the Twitter at the footer. That's basically it.
Yeah, check him out and check out Machankura, check out the Kgothatso. And believe me when I tell you, this is how Africa is going to win. This is how all the countries in Africa are going to win. This is how, in general, the world is going to win. Because I think, did I said it on stage?
Yeah.
Like, Africa can't win without Bitcoin. And Bitcoin can't win without Africa.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.